Welcome to Book Huddle. I'm your host, Karen Reeder. Today we have Abby Cooper, and you can see behind her right there, she's got her book, True Colors. This is just phenomenal. I've been so excited about it. It is one of my favorites. I think it will always be on my favorites. It is absolutely a 5 out of 5 stars. So what I love about it is so much about emotions. So we're going to be talking kids and emotions today. And so Abby, first I want you to just introduce yourself and just tell us about Abby, not the author.
Hi, well, thank you so much for having me on this podcast. It is an honor, and thank you so much for all the kind words about True Colors. That really means more to me than you know, because this book was really a labor of love that took me about 7 years beginning
Wow.
to. Yeah, people don't know this book took me the longest of any of my books to write and revise and revise and revise and revise. But I wouldn't change a thing because I'm just so proud of how it turned out.
And there's just so much power behind it. Like,
Thank
I think
you.
this is one that adults and kids just love.
I mean, I honestly, a lot of my books just come from like, I'm writing to myself, like kind of advice that I need to tell myself, things I need to read as a 35-year-old.
Oh, that's awesome.
But it's kind of like if I had read this book when I was 12, maybe I wouldn't have these issues that I have at 35. Yeah, back to your question. I'm Abby. I live in Minnesota. I am the author of 4 middle grade novels. I am also a full-time mom to a very rambunctious 2-year-old human and a 12-year-old poodle who is also not rambunctious, but just kind of requires a lot of attention.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I love to write. I love to read in my spare time. I love to bake. I also recently started a nonprofit here in Minnesota that gets books to kids in need. And so far, I've helped almost 500 families get books of their own. So lots going on at all times.
Oh, I love it. That's such sounds like another labor of love that
It is
is your life just fueled by passion then, it sounds like.
pretty much.
Oh, I love it. And just feeling fulfilled with all that, right?
Oh, totally.
Not everyone gets to feel such fulfillment in living their passions. That's so cool.
Yeah, no, I'm very grateful every single day that I get to do what I get to do every day.
All right, so let's do a quick little brief synopsis because mostly I want people to come here because we already know about the book, but let's do like a 30-second, what is True Colors about?
Oh my gosh, you're
Can you
not
do
going to
it?
time me, are you? Because I've already
No,
wasted time.
no.
The timing.
Make you
Okay,
nervous watching the timer tick.
right. I'm imagining like a timer.
You've already lost 10 seconds, Abby. Go, go, go.
Okay. True Colors is it's about a 12-year-old named Mackenzie who has an unusual condition where the emotion she feels actually appears outside her body as a colorful haze. So if she's feeling angry, you'll see an outline around her of red, or if she's feeling sad, you'll see a little bit of blue. So she literally wears her heart on her sleeve for everyone to see. Now, she also lives in this kind of utopian community called Serenity, where fed up adults started a place where people can move their families to just be happy and peaceful and calm and just away from all this chaos of the world.
And like they let go of technology and stuff.
They let go of technology
To some extent.
Yeah, and they just focus in on their surroundings, and they have literally gone to extreme strengths to make sure their town has just everything a person could want or need, including chocolate fountains on every corner and bouncy houses just as you stroll down the street. And so everybody in the town really seems really happy.
Right.
And as Mackenzie is growing up and as a filmmaker comes to town to make a documentary, Mackenzie starts noticing she's just having more and more colors appear around her. And there's an increased sense of pressure to feel and look happy because everyone around her
That's
is
the
just
point of the town, Mackenzie.
exactly.
Yes.
And if she can't be happy there, maybe something's wrong with her. And so the novel just explores how Mackenzie comes to terms with her emotions and kind of also how the people of the town come to terms with theirs as well, because spoiler alert, they're not just happy all the time. Everyone
right.
a full range
It's
of
a nice idea, but
not so realistic.
Right.
Not even in fiction.
Right. Yes. So I love it. I love True Colors that it has this very compelling story, like almost like a dystopian feel, right? That they're in this. I don't know. It really feels dystopian to me. I know that's not the theme of the
I
book.
was watching a lot of cult documentaries as I wrote it, so
There we
some
go.
of that snuck in.
I know I hesitated to use the word cult, but it almost feels like that they're
Yeah, that's okay.
but they're not like a creepy cult. Their
Creepy. They're
efforts
like
are to be happy. And
yeah.
so, but it does. It's got this kind of dystopian feel, this cult, but like, and then these very real teenage, friend things, and the story's there. The story's powerful. If nothing else, a kid or adult could just read it and be like, that was a cool story. And
That's great.
I love so much when you can just enjoy the story, if that's all.
Me too.
And then I love that in your book, it didn't fill in your face. The lessons are there, but you just did such an incredible job. So I would just like to start by asking, how was True Colors born? Like, I bet it's evolved so much over the last 7
So
years, you
much
said.
like you don't
But
even know.
how did it come to be? How did
Yeah.
Serenity,
So
come to be?
it,
How did you
it
decide to write a book about emotion? Sorry, that was a lot of questions. Go.
that's okay, but it went on a really long and interesting journey. So like I said, I actually started this book in 2017. I had the idea for the girl with a colorful haze around her that reflected her emotions. But that's all I knew. I
Okay.
didn't know what I was trying to say. I didn't know what the plot was. I didn't know
And
what
you
the
didn't
themes
have the
were.
community yet. Okay.
No, not at all. All I could think of was kind of this image, like the one you see on my beautiful cover that
Yes.
Oriel Vidal so wonderfully
It
designed.
is gorgeous.
So I just kind of had that image in my head of like, wow, this would be like a cool book and a cool cover. And so I wrote a draft, just a wide cast of characters. The plot was kind of all over the place. It wasn't quite right. And I tried again in 2018. I kind of rearranged some of the characters, changed the plot. No, tried again in 2019. It wasn't until COVID in 2020.
What a apt time to write about emotion.
Where it really I kind of figured out what the theme should be. And that was a huge thing to unlock.
Yeah.
Speaking of lockdown, man, that feels like 5 seconds ago, but it was actually a long time ago. During lockdown, there were all these videos. People were learning TikTok dances. People were baking sourdough bread. Like everywhere I looked, I felt like people were just like flourishing and like having the most productive month of their lives.
And they were showing all the best off.
Yeah. And it was just like everywhere. And I went through a really hard time during COVID. Like I personally didn't lose any family or friends, but
it stunk. Right?
It stunk. And it was emotionally just very hard for me. I missed people. I like just was feeling just this deep sadness.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt like something was wrong with me because everywhere I looked, people were like, oh, this is a cool opportunity. And I just finished my 12,000th novel of the month. And I'm like, well, I'm still here on the couch. And
congratulations, Brandon Sanderson.
I have done nothing. And I sort of had to convince myself that like, it's very normal to feel afraid and sad and all the other things I was feeling at the time of a global pandemic or also anytime.
Right. And we all cope differently, which is very much in your book. Yes.
And so I really like, it was a lot of work and I had help from supportive family and friends around me, just like reminding me like, it's okay to feel this way. This is going to pass, yada, yada. But just going through that, I realized if it's so hard for me as an adult to kind of come out of this, like, oh my gosh, everybody around me is like doing great things and feeling great and I'm not. If it was so hard for me to come out of that, imagine being 10, 11, 12.
Right.
And COVID aside now, I got thinking more about these positivity messages that are being kind of shoved down the throats of our kids.
Yeah.
Social media, they're all on there now in one way or another. People like to like say, oh, mine's not, but they are. They're just not telling you.
Yeah.
And it's not even just that, it's just kind of keeping up appearances at school or at camp and in friend groups. I observe a lot of kids just in my neighborhood and my life, and it's just sort of this ongoing contest of like who's being the funniest and who's talking the loudest, and it's kids don't want to miss out, and they don't want to be the odd one out. And so anyway, long answer, but 2020 is when I realized that's what the book needed to be about.
That's really cool to hear all about that too.
Yeah, and even COVID aside, just as we kind of went back to normal life, there's just, I don't know, I just became ultra aware of that just kind of toxic positivity messaging that's everywhere. Just, and it's well intended, like there's signs like, all are welcome, and no bullying, and we're glad you're here, and it's all well intended. But when you kind of go deeper into schools and societies and stuff, you kind of realize there's not always what kids need to back that up going on there.
Right. So yeah, we should just talk about this right now. I love this. Like in the book, they will say things like, well, and I mean this in the best way possible, and you're like, no, you're being a jerk. Or like the moderators of, they do have this one access to like a tablet, and the moderators are always like, expect the best in people, assume that people are coming from a positive place. And while I feel that is such a real thing, it's good to expect the best of people, because we don't know why they're doing whatever.
Absolutely.
But it in the book, it feels like a cop-out line for the moderators, right? And so let's talk about reconciling this, of reconciling different people's good intentions and their different points of view about emotion.
Oh, it's so hard. I wish I'm not an expert by any means.
Right. You're not doctor. What was her name?
There are some books listed at the end of True Colors by actual experts.
Wonderful.
So
I didn't realize.
I don't know if you noticed that, but if people are interested in reading more about the science of emotions,
that's so cool.
I read some really, really wonderful books when I was researching. There's it just right in the back here, page 220. Bittersweet by Susan Cain, Emotional Agility by Susan David, Permission to Feel by Mark Brackett.
I like that. Oh, I love that title.
Yeah. These all kind of helped me learn a little more about all of this. So I'm by no means an expert. My own personal opinion is exactly what you said, like the moderators and just people in the world. We love saying things like, assume positive intent, and we should do that. Absolutely. Yes. Like, I would love to believe the best in people. But, one thing Mackenzie kind of learns in the book is that your feelings are valid, right? Like, it's okay to feel how you feel, but sometimes your behaviors and your reactions are not. Like, it's okay to feel sad.
Yeah.
It's not okay to go kick your brother. You know what I mean?
Right. And this is something so relevant from our preschoolers to our middle grade readers and adults. So many adults need to remember it's okay to feel this way, but not okay what you're doing with this.
But not okay to treat people badly because of the way you feel, not okay and that's something she has to come to terms with. So I think, I purposely put some of those kind of cliched phrases in the book because I was hoping it would encourage conversation like this. Like, yes, it's a well-intentioned phrase, and we should
try
positive intent, because that's how the world gets better, right?
Yes.
But, if we just have a little more faith in each other, but behaviors need to back up those words, and you can't just use that as a cop out. Like, well, I meant it in a good way. I read some amazing quote the other day actually that said something like, something about your intention. Oh, this is going to bother me. Your intention. It doesn't matter what your intention is. It matters what your impact is. Something like that.
I like it.
So even if someone has good intentions, which is wonderful, people need to kind of reflect on their own actions and their own behaviors and say, even though I meant well, and I hope people are assuming my positive intent because I had one. If I impacted someone in a negative way with my reaction or my behavior, maybe I need to reflect on that a little bit. So the whole book in general is just giving people lots of opportunity for reflection and hopefully to learn something and for growth.
Oh, absolutely. So I think it's the mom that says this, but in any event, she's saying it's not our job to guess like how they're feeling. It's their job to tell us. So, and I like this. And I read in another book and I appreciated it that these two characters, they're middle grade, and she was like thankful that the girl just left her alone. She needed her space. But if the girl had gone up and been like trying to talk to her and support her, because some people don't need their space, right?
Right.
Then that girl's responsibility would have been to say, hey, I need my space. It's her responsibility to tell, right? So that's another hard one to reconcile is like, get out of my space with, hey, I needed you. Why didn't you come? Like,
Yeah.
so how do you feel that is reconciled? Do you feel like it's
it's so
just
hard. And
right?
it's so hard to, gosh, well, it's so hard to be the person in both both
Yes,
positions,
right,
right?
right.
Because it's so hard if like someone, your friend just like stops talking to you and you have no idea why. And so then you kind of drive yourself insane,
Yeah.
right? Thinking, well, like, what did I do? And like going over every text you sent and every
Yes,
message you wrote, like, what did I do wrong? And what is she so upset with me for? What did I do?
right.
To drive yourself nuts. And then maybe it turns out she's having a bad day that has nothing to do with you,
Yes.
right?
Or
But
she
then
was trying to give you the space she thought you needed.
exactly. But then on the flip side, it can be really, really hard to tell someone directly,
Right.
I feel this way, I need this.
Yes.
But I think that's something we all have to kind of learn to be brave enough to do, because otherwise our relationships just
So here's what I feel then. Yes, their job to tell, and then maybe our job to ask as we approach and say, or as we don't approach, say, hey, I'm just going to give you your space, but if you need me, I'm right here. So maybe it's their job to
I
say,
really like that. Yeah.
and our job to ask.
Acknowledge that like there's
Yeah.
something going on, because it's just
Yeah.
so uncomfortable
Yes.
to like go from like being friends to like, hello, anybody there?
Right?
Like, we just don't talk anymore. Like,
Right, right.
what?
So,
Where'd you go?
so maybe another keyword in addition to behavior is effort. Am I making
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I do think it's the person. If somebody is feeling
Right.
upset with somebody else, I think it is that person's responsibility to, if they want resolution,
Yeah,
to
right.
tell that person and have a calm discussion where both
Yes.
people are heard
Yes.
and are kind to each other.
Yes. And not fake
and
kind, like some of those teenagers.
and not just like, you did this, you did that.
Yeah.
And another thing that I try to talk about in the book and that I think is important is just for kids and adults to remember, we are not our feelings.
Oh, yes, I love that at the end.
Like, that's not like, I might be feeling upset, right?
Yes.
But, just that phrasing, saying I'm feeling upset, or I'm noticing that I'm feeling upset,
I'm
instead
not
of
an upset
I am
person.
upset.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just that changing of the phrasing makes a huge difference kind of in how you feel and how you treat yourself. And
Yes.
because it can quickly become an identity. Like, I'm
Yeah.
upset. I'm upset. That's me. I'm the upset person. No,
Yes. Right.
at this moment, I'm noticing I'm feeling upset. I can
Yes.
just kind of watch the upsetness go by and know that it is just a visitor and it will
Yes.
be headed on its merry way soon enough.
Yes. I recognize I learn even from uncomfortable ones. I can learn. It is a state, but don't have to keep it. It's not part of me.
Exactly. It's not my identity.
And I think there are so
Unless
many
you think
picture
about
books out there. Like I interviewed a gal that talked about Kimochis, I think. Anyways, it's Cloud's Worst Day Ever. And he talks about like carrying the emotion. And there's so many picture books like that out there. And I don't feel like it's as well represented in middle grade. So I love that you
I know, I agree.
love it. I love it, love it.
And I think I feel like I have read maybe a couple lately that are starting to address the same topic. But it's definitely, it's great that it's in so many picture books, but middle grade readers and beyond still need that same just ability to relate to characters dealing with uncomfortable emotions.
And it is so relatable because it goes through in true colors and you've got Mackenzie and she's very relatable. And then you get to see some of her parents and their reasons for bringing her to Serenity, or you get to see some of the other teens through the documentary, and why they did like some of these things that just seem so awful, and you get to see what kind of fuels them. And I love it. I think there's so many ways that it's relatable. And I think you're just such a master of words. So I want to share a quote, and I hope it's the way that it
That's
is.
very kind of you. I've never been called that before. Oh, I'm
Oh,
going to tell my
well,
husband.
here I am to tell. World, Abby Cooper, master of words.
Oh my goodness. I'm
It
gonna
has
need
been
that
said,
taken,
it needs to be
if you don't
written.
mind. Thank you. Thank you.
Of course. So
Wow.
let's share some of these masterful words.
Okay.
So where you describe emotions, I love it. It's compared to like food, and I love food so much. And so comparing emotions to food, that's such a relatable way of doing it.
Right.
Grumbly grapefruit, raging raspberry, puzzled pomegranate, blues, got the blues berry. So it's all relatable and a great way to describe emotions. And then I like again on more and more colors rise up inside me like whack-a-moles from the game at Serenity's Summer Fair. Whenever you squash one, another one immediately pops up in its place, and it keeps going until you're ready to be done. And here, collect your prize. But like, like it just keeps going, like it keeps coming. And so tell me about creating some of these phrases. Like for one, go back to like the comparing it to food.
Yeah. So just a little context for that for people who don't know is that Mackenzie, the main character, her parents own a bakery. And so Serenity's bakery. So like big deal bakery. Bakery of happiness dreams. And so Mackenzie is just really into desserts, as am I. And so she's always sampling new flavors. And so from a writer perspective, I knew I wanted to have all these colors. And when I was drafting this to begin with, I was hoping to just keep it very simple, right? I was like, well, when she's mad, it's red. When she's sad, it's blue. But as I was writing and revising, I'm like, oh crap, she's not really just straight up sad right now. Like she's really disappointed. Okay, better add one for that. And she's not just like mad right now. Like she's like really mad. Like she is livid. Like she is raging. Like we need one for that. And so I kept adding more and more. And I think I ended up with somewhere like 40 or 50 colors, like in one of my later drafts. And it made my brain dizzy. And I was reading my draft,
trying to keep track of them all.
Oh my God. I was reading my draft and it was like, well, then a light red layer came out of me, and then a dark pink one, and then like a medium pink one came out. And I'm like, if I am this confused, a reader definitely will be. And so I knew I needed a way to
something more than just color.
A way to connect the colors in a different way to be a little more memorable. And to maybe even better to connect with the feeling itself. So then readers aren't having to like reference a chart or like, like red means mad, green means happy. Because it just, I was trying to keep things as simple as possible, but the things just kept getting complicated. So then it was a big challenge for me. And luckily I had lots of creative friends and family around to help out, because it was a challenge to come up with, first of all, the variations of colors, and then the different flavors that could go with them, and then to tie it all together with like a catchy name. So that was a lot of work, honestly.
But was it at least fun? Was all the work fun?
Oh, it was super fun. I mean, I would literally just sit here and like Google ice cream flavors, like to give myself ideas and stuff.
I love it.
I mean, how bad can your job be if
you're Googling ice cream flavors? That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Right there.
Good time.
Well, that is so great. And then let's do another quote then. All right. So because these masterful words and powerful lessons, I take a deep breath.
I could hear you say that all day.
You can replay it later.
I will.
I take a deep breath. All this time, I've been so focused on how others make me feel, but what I say and do impacts others as much as what they say and do impacts me. So I think this is such an important journey. So she's coming, she's been identifying her emotions so long. And then she has this opportunity later, because she's especially an anomaly in Serenity, because she, starting out, she's the only one. But then, the world's big, but there's like thousands of people around the world that have this kind of anomaly.
Small amount.
So but in the grand scheme of numbers,
like rare, but not like so unusual.
Yes, exactly. And she discovers through her non-exposure to social media she doesn't realize how many people are out there, and her parents didn't like communicate that to her. And so she's trying to balance this and be like, well, why? But also going back to the, what they say and do impacts me and so it's more than just me. It's more than about me. And she starts to recognize colors in other people. I've never worn that color. There's other emotions out there, right? And so
Mhm.
I love that this is starting to teach also an awareness not only of our own emotion, but awareness of others' emotions as well.
Mhm. I mean, empathy is just one of the biggest reasons to read and write any books, but middle grade in
Yes.
particular, I think,
Right.
just in general, does a really wonderful job of encouraging kids to notice people around them, to care about people around them, to be empathetic humans. And I think, at that age, they can notice others' emotions, and
Right.
they can try to be supportive of those.
Yes. And it's time. It's time. It's time to stop the cop outs. And we see these cop outs like through like these two teenage boys later. And like one says, oh, Mackenzie, she's fine, or whatever. So he's got a cop out there. And then about another boy who he shares something when he hears about another boy. And like, but he's got a cop out for it. It's time to stop the cop outs
Mhm.
and be aware of how what we do affects others and
Mhm.
how we ourselves feels. And or
Yeah, and I
maybe
think
not even how what we affects others, but hey, they're going through something. Huh.
yeah, like I can be an empathetic person toward someone else who's
Right.
going through something. Yeah, and I think it's just important for kids and adults to remember that yeah, you're going through what you're going through, but you're also not the only one going through stuff,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So even if what you're going through is really big and really hard, which it might be, and that's rough and you deserve lots of support, but that
Right.
doesn't take away from other things others might be going through too. And so
Right.
we just have to kind of be supportive and respectful of each other,
Yes.
and say like I can't imagine what you're going through, but I'm here for you. But
Yes.
I'm also going through my own things, and I need you to be here for me, even if my thing is different than your thing, or like not as
Yes.
bad as your thing, or it's still a thing in my
It's
life
the
that
thing. Right.
matters. Yeah.
Right. Right. And I love that reciprocation, that communication. Like I had a friend
Yeah.
who, as a life coach, she would say, I'm not responsible for how you feel. And I felt like that was such a cop out. And she's like, I get your feelings there. But when I was willing to say, okay, explain more what you mean by this. And I was able to learn from that and see, so that being able to reciprocate and communicate
Mhm.
is so important here. So,
Mhm.
let's see what other good stuff I've got that you got. So you read books, you did do research, and did
Yes.
you also like go out talking to people like, because with the colors you asked, but did you say, hey, because I'm only me. I don't know what it's like to feel this, right? So what was it like trying to come up with, the interviews for the documentary? Like imagine what other people went through.
Yeah, that was actually really fun to do, because I think, I put a lot of myself into my main characters sometimes, and
Yes.
obviously there's imagination and creativity, and,
Yes.
my characters are not me, but a lot of, their thoughts and feelings are things that have passed through my mind, and so it just feels kind of natural to write. So writing as these very different characters was really extra fun because I got to use even more imagination, I think. And I just, I think about people that I know, people that I have known throughout my
Right.
life, and just try to put myself in their shoes the best I can, to think about how something might have felt, how an experience might have been. And yeah, absolutely, just asking people, and also I think being a reader really helped me in that respect too,
Yeah.
because I read as much as I possibly can, and I think
Absolutely.
through that I've been able to walk in many people's shoes, and
Nice.
I've been able to experience many things and feel many things
Such a
that
powerful,
I,
wonderful,
Abby, would not necessarily experience or feel in my day-to-day life.
wonderful. So let's see. Our last true colors question then. What do you feel is the biggest thing you learned about emotion in creating true colors?
Ooh, that's hard. I learned a lot. I mean,
All right, a fave.
I'm thinking. No, it's fun. My other books didn't really require as much research as this one. And I
Right.
found that I enjoyed the research aspect of it. And I just learned things that I would not have otherwise ever known. I think the main thing to remember is just that emotions are visitors. They're not, that's something that I just read over and over again in different words and different books.
Yes.
They do not define us. You are not sad.
Yes.
Like you might be feeling sad, and that's okay. That's totally fine.
Yes.
And you might not feel sad tomorrow,
Yeah.
It's so like, especially when you're in like an uncomfortable feeling or
Yes.
just kind of a down kind of state. You just tend to kind of feel like I'm going to feel this way forever. And like, this is just how it's going to be.
And what an awful thing to be in that moment.
Yeah. But they're literally, the research says they're just visitors. Like they might last a while, but eventually they're going to get out of here. Somebody new is going to come in, some other color, some other flavor.
And invite them in. Invite them to come and visit.
Yeah. And that reminds me too of something else that I learned that I really like, is that the uncomfortable feelings, they're there to give us information.
Oh, yes, I like that.
Isn't that cool? Because when you think about it, it's like, well, I feel disappointed right now. Well,
right.
Why do I feel disappointed? What did I not
learned.
get that I feel that I need? And you
Yes.
can actually, you can really use those feelings to learn more
Absolutely.
about what you need as a human.
Yes.
And so I try to kind of look at them that way. Like it's obvious, it's very okay to just
Yes.
stew in your however you feel, but when you're ready to just kind of reflect a little bit and see what information you can get out of them, make
Yes.
them useful, make them work for you.
Fantastic. I love it. So I'm going to share my favorite in your words in the book, if that's all right, is the asking the questions. So there's this point where Mackenzie and others, it's just this flood of whoa, color, emotion, and flavors. And so then there comes this realization of they're trying to help each other. And so how do they do that? And they start asking these questions. So it says, what does it feel like in your body? What do you need right now? And how can I help? So I just love it. I love the emotions that it's there. And again, that it's
thank you. And I think it goes back to like the positive intent thing, right? Like we don't want each other to like feel rotten. We want to help each other, but we all cope differently, right? Like what makes me feel better might not make you feel better. And so the question, what do you need, is kind of important to ask, because if I just give you what makes me feel better, that might not actually help you. And so then I'm not actually helping. I'm not actually supporting, because I'm doing what I would do for me, but we're talking about you.
Yeah. And then be willing to say, hey, you haven't asked this, but I need to tell you, I need this right now.
And I think, generally people want to help other people, right? But we, as a society, we're lacking a lot of tools. Like, a lot of people, therapy is becoming more mainstream, and I think that's wonderful. And, I know a lot of schools do a wonderful job with their social emotional curriculum. But I just find more often than not, like people don't know how to talk to other people, or how to communicate their needs, or how to say, this is how I'm feeling. They just like go off on like this long, mean rant. And really they just needed to say, I am feeling hurt because such and such. And there's just a lack of that skill. So I'm hoping that, maybe
this will
people
be okay.
who need them can get some from this book.
I love it. I think so. I think it's powerful and wonderful. So Abby, I love to ask all my guests, What is a favorite book that you can share with our audience?
You made me nervous.
I got you nervous.
What's
No,
she
don't
gonna
worry.
ask?
This has got to be one of the easiest questions. Maybe not, because you're going to think of 5 to 10.
5 to 10. I can think of like 500.
Right. So what's a favorite book that you can share?
I'm a big reader, and I've been a reader my whole life. My personal favorite book of all time is Frindle by Andrew Clements.
Yeah.
Are you a fan?
Yes, and did you see that there's like a companion book coming out?
Yes. What
I
is
just
the
saw
deal
that.
with that? What is that? Because he passed away.
He
So
did?
how-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt like it was a long time ago. I just saw that. Okay.
Sorry to
I
be
have
the
to go
bearer of
research
bad
that
news.
part.
Yeah.
Because I saw that it's like Frindle something something. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Well,
I
tell
saw
us.
that too. I don't quite understand what it is, but I want it.
It's little though. It's so consumable. So tell us about it.
In third grade, and my teacher read it to us, and there was just something about it that I just connected with, and I was so engaged. I just was dying to know what happened. And most importantly, it's just the book that kind of made me want to read all the books, and just made me want to write my own books. And I tell kids all the time, if kids say, "Oh, I don't like to read," whatever, I really try to tell them, because I really believe it's true, that if they think they don't like to read, they really just have not found their Frindle yet. Like they haven't found, with how many amazing books there are available.
Yes.
There is a book for every single child that will meet them where they are, academically, emotionally, all the things. It will give them someone to relate to. It will make them laugh or cry or do whatever they need to do. There is a perfect book out there for every single child. And we just really, as teachers and librarians and parents and guardians and people who love and care about kids, we just need to convince them not to give up if they haven't found it yet. Because what a difference it makes when you find that book, whether or not you want to become an author.
Right.
If you just find the book that makes you love books and reading, then your life is going to change dramatically for the better.
I love that Frindle's that for you. And I love that. And can I just plug myself really quick for a second?
Okay.
So as a children's literacy advocate, this is my goal in life, is to help parents, teachers, librarians find these books for these kids. I want to help kids love reading. And so I'm trying to share all the books. I'm trying to share with bringing on these authors like Abby. This is my goal in life. So write to people. There are lots of us out there that are bloggers and on social media, that there are people trying to help your kids.
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah. Ask for help. People are more than happy to offer it. Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Abby, thank you so much. It's just a treasure trove of amazing emotion on True Colors, and just a fun ride. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.